We'll start. Welcome everyone to part 5 of the series. When I came in this morning, there was a lot of exciting discussion about supplies. So, as I told someone, I've been thinking of a creative BINA fundraiser. I can source some toilet paper from somewhere and sell them double the price or something. Anyway, let's hope it all passes quickly. Just a couple of announcements before we start. Tonight we're starting a 3-part series for those that want, for men and women, called Kabbalah Meditation. 3 different topics. It's about positive living, somewhat connected to what we do in the morning, but a little bit different. So tonight's the Kabbalah of self-esteem. Tuesday is Purim. As I said last week, the last 2 years it was Thursday, so we had our regular Thursday session, but we're just going to duplicate it and have it on Tuesday instead. Coming Tuesday, we'll have a morning tea as we always do, and for those who want the Megillah at 8:30, but then at 9:20 we'll do our normal little thing, a discussion on Purim, called it History or Current Events, and then we'll have a little morning tea and do the mitzvot of Purim as we always do. So please come along. I know it's Tuesday, some of you can't make it, but if you can, it'll be lovely to see you. Unfortunately, I got a little bit of protexia, but I can't move Purim. It is what it is, and it's on this coming Tuesday. Also, we have the series Rabbi Meets Expert. So we've had really 2 good ones, one on Ir David and one on dementia. This coming week we have one on business. I hope David remembers. Does he remember that he's coming? But remind him today. So we're talking about business practice, business ethics, from a practical point of view, from a Jewish point of view, and so on, for men and women. Okay. So today what I want to do is I want to first of all review a little bit. Review a little bit of what we've done last week. But also expand some of the stuff that we did last week, just expand it a bit more. So today the review and what we talk about will be sort of intermingled. And also towards the end, finally get to the original topic, which was dealing with the concept of worry and anxious thinking. And expanding it more next week. So last week we talked about patterns of faulty thinking. So like different categories, and it was a very nice way she put it. So I'll just run through them again. There was the shoulds, when you say it, everyone should do this, or it always should happen this way. Awfulizing, like when we take something and we negatively react because of faulty thinking, because we use the awfulizing. It's so awful, it's a disaster when this happens. Exactly. We'll talk about it towards the end, maybe how we should react to this. Overgeneralizing, something like you always say that, or you never do that. That kind of thing is personalizing, taking everything very personal. Mind reading, like I know what you're thinking and it's not true anyways, and blaming. So those were some of the negative thinking patterns. Now we talked last week about this concept at the beginning of negative thinking. Often starts from what we call what Sarah Edelman calls LFT, which is low frustration tolerance, which can be a disposition of a person who just gets very frustrated when things don't go right. But as we explained last week, actually really is something very real today, particularly because with the advance of technology and Western living and so on, where it's come with all its benefits, it also has come with a very big downside. And that downside, of course, is the expectations that we have, the expectation that everything should work out a particular way, taking for granted that every day will happen and will play out in a certain way, and so on and so forth. So what it does is it increases our irritation, it increases our frustration, it lowers our frustration tolerance level, that as soon as something, we get very, very imbalanced, so to speak, and very, very irritated and sometimes frustrated. And of course, the antidote to that, as we talked about last week, is number 1, practicing the concept of acceptance, which of course is made easier with the idea of believing that everything happens for a reason, hashgacha pratit, and so on, as we've been explaining, and also to become more solution focused. So rather than lose ourselves, actually say what rather than this is terrible, it's more what can I do about it, right? Then we went on last week to talk about a very, very important part of all of this, and that is the thought monitoring formula, right? So I just want to run through it again. So we talked about having the situation. And this is really important because cheshbon hanefesh, the idea of reflection, the idea of trying to identify what is it that we're thinking that's causing the way we react, what's our deeper beliefs, what's the belief system that's inspiring the thinking, and therefore how can we dispute it, and how can we sort of accept it, dispute it, and then find a solution to deal with the negative reaction. So I took the formula from the book, the Sarah Edelman's book, but I added to it because 2 weeks ago we took the whole thing to a bit of a deeper level and talked about the values, the beliefs the hidden beliefs that sort of give rise or inspire our conscious beliefs. So therefore what you have is, in every situation, you have a situation, something goes wrong, and we're going to give another example in a minute. Then we have the feelings, like, so what am I feeling about it? And we try to identify, we know what we're feeling, but the question is, what are we thinking? What's the immediate thought? But then, besides the immediate thought, what's the conscious beliefs that we have that are inspiring these thoughts and these reactions? And then what is the thinking errors, the categories? And then we talked about, and this is what we added last week, the deeper driver beliefs. In other words, what's that fundamental beliefs that are giving rise to this? And then we talked about how we dispute them. So there's the logical disputing, in other words, the rational disputing. Then there's going deeper and trying to tackle our belief system and how we dispute this on a deeper level. And then we look for positive action, solutions, and sometimes, as we explained last week, towards the end, the behavioral dispute. Now, just to clarify this, because it's such an important part of this, I thought we'd just run through one more example. I just asked someone just to press that. Just press to put on the conditioning. I think this will help me. Yeah, thanks, that's good, it's good, it's done. Thank you. So, one of the examples she brings in the book is the following, and let's just slow down here so we're able to do this properly. So, keeping it up on the screen, we'll go through each one, taking an example. So, and this is like a kind of typical example, particularly in our days. I mean, I'm sure some of you have experienced this. I have. And can become very, very distressing. What is it? So, during the course of a busy week, Elizabeth discovered that her wallet and mobile phone is missing. Ever had the experience? So, needless to say, the realization triggered anxiety and despair. And there's a real thing. I think today, I was once in South Africa. This is where being over-punctual helps. I was once in South Africa and I was visiting my mother and I was coming back. So of course, silly me, I take a taxi like 3 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours before the airport, And I come there and I got plenty of time to spare. Like, as I get out of the taxi, or someone dropped me off at the airport, I realized I left my mobile charging in the guy's house that I was staying. So I had feelings of despair and anxiety. Why? Because nowadays what we do is these things have a whole life in it. I mean, literally a whole life. All our contexts, all our information, everything, right? Everything is there. So you spare, but that was when my craziness of coming early to the airport actually helped. I managed to find a payphone, could you believe? Got some change, which wasn't easy either because you had to buy something to get change. Called the guy who was there, and he arranged someone to actually bring it to me, and plenty of time to spare, so that was fine. Okay. So that was a quick solution, and anxiety. But how about if you really lose it, you don't even know where it is? See, I knew where it was. But how about if you don't, right? So she told herself, this is disastrous, this is terrible, like what am I going to do, right? So you can just picture, I'm sure you just picture if it's happened to you in some sort of small way, you can picture the feeling of how this works. Like everything is lost, right? And you feel like you don't know where to go, you don't know where to turn, you don't know what to do because like your whole life is missing. Plus the cost, right? There's valuables, there's stuff. And she says, it's so disastrous, I had so many valuables in that wallet and so on and so forth. And she went to bed that night in just completely distressed, right? However, the next day she decided, no, this is not working, so let's take control of the situation, right? So we take control and she became solution focused and she started, went to the license office, I guess, and problem solving, challenging some of the catastrophic thoughts and getting herself into a much better focused and better place. So how would that work, right? So if that happened to us, probably most of us would also get distressed and frustrated and maybe even angry because we'd sort of find someone to blame maybe and why does this happen to me kind of thing. So that's a really, really good example of when this kind of process can actually really take us from a feeling of complete paralysis and anxiety and distress into a better place. How would that work? So we start off with the situation, right? Situation is we discover the wallet is missing, and the mobile with cash, driver's license, money and other valuables, right? So that's the situation. Now, as we know, the situation is not changing. It's lost. I mean, maybe we'll find it, but for now, that's the matzav, as we say. That's the situation, right? What are the feelings? So the feelings are panic, despair. It can be very physical. It can be like heart palpitations. We can actually physically feel tightness in the chest, knots in the stomach, and as I said before, perhaps even a bit of anger. Certainly frustration, like, why does this happen to me? Why did it have to happen? I had such a busy day. There's so many things I have to do today. Everything's lost. Everything's gone. That kind of thing, right? Okay. What's our immediate thoughts? The immediate thoughts is the thought that's driving that feeling. Obviously, this is a disaster. I've lost everything. It's a complete mess. It's going to go on. I can't cope with it, right? That's the thoughts that are triggering those feelings of anxiety and tightness of chest and so on. So what's the belief? So remember we spoke about the difference between thoughts and beliefs. So what's the conscious beliefs that trigger those thoughts, right? So the conscious beliefs would be something like, it's all lost, like it cannot be resolved. That's a belief system we often have where something happens, that's it. That's it, and we can't resolve it, right? Which is obviously not true, but things like, things should always go smoothly. Like, why did this happen? It's not supposed to happen, right? That's a very big belief we often have, where we expect things to happen. That's what I talked about last week, the expectations we have, that things are just supposed to work, particularly nowadays. The other belief system that we have sometimes is that I can't cope with this. It's like, this is not for me. I'm going to fall apart. It's something I can't cope with. And sometimes it's with very small things, not huge things. Sometimes it's very small things. This is not for me. Maybe someone else can cope with it. I can't. My whole day, I just can't do it, right? That's kind of the belief system that then triggers those feelings of despair and anxiety. And of course, the categories of thinking errors is like awful, it's disaster, everything should always go, so it's the should category and so on. But then what's the deeper beliefs here, right? What are the deeper beliefs that bring the conscious beliefs? On a spiritual level, from a Jewish perspective. So part of the beliefs, the erroneous beliefs that bring those conscious beliefs that then trigger the negative thinking and the negative response is things like, I think, there's no purpose, right? In other words, when something happens which is different to the plan of the day. So I plan my day, and I'm going about my life, and things should happen in a particular way, and that's when I'll achieve something, right? Something like this is a complete waste of time. It's a complete purposeless experience. Nothing good is going to come out of it. It's just a distraction and a destructive distraction. I'm going to waste a day. I'm going to have to pay money to get stuff back. I'm going to have to go report a lost phone. I'm going to have to get another plan. After all those things, I'm going to lose 2 days that I'm alive and on my busy schedule. I'm going to lose things I was supposed to achieve. It has no purpose. Purpose is a very important belief system and a very, very deep belief system, right? So when we believe that purpose is only in things which we plan and we think are valuable, then when something happens that is not consistent with that value process, then the deeper belief system is, then this is happening for nothing. It's a complete waste of time. It's a coincidence. It wasn't, in other words, obviously it comes with not believing that everything happens for a reason, but it means I believe that it has no purpose, right? And therefore, on a deeper level, it's a weakening, and we all go through this. Even though academically we can understand the concept of hashgacha pratit, of everything is orchestrated, divinely orchestrated, but it's hard to feel it and internalize it. So when I deeply feel that this thing is a complete waste of time and no purpose, what I'm really saying is that I'm not sure if I've internalized the belief that God makes things like this happen. Because if I believed He made it happen, He wouldn't make it happen for nothing. It would be made happen for a purpose, right? So therefore, if something is purposeless, if something is meaningless, it also means it's random. It's coincidence. Because you cannot have something that's divinely orchestrated and be purposeless. Follow me? So therefore, if it's got a purpose, then it can come from that belief that everything happens from a higher power and it's got a purpose. If it's just random and a waste of time, subtly what that means is that it's random. It's coincidence, right? So that's the deeper beliefs. If it's random, that's the deeper beliefs. If it's random and purposeless, then it's frustrating. And then it shouldn't happen to me. And then I go to the conscious thoughts and the conscious beliefs, which then come to the thoughts and then trigger the emotion, right? Also, things like, I cannot cope with this. There's certain things that if something happens to me, it means that it's just not for me, right? That I'm going to fall apart. I won't be able to go through this kind of thing. Even a silly thing like losing a mobile phone. I mean, eventually, obviously, things fall into place and we look back at it and laugh, but at the moment, that's what we kind of feel, right? So then what we need to do, obviously, is we have to dispute. So we've identified the situation, we know what we're feeling, we understand the conscious beliefs and the deeper beliefs that are triggering that whole process, and then we have to start the disputing process, right? So the logical disputing and the acceptance, the logical disputing, first of all, to deal with our frustration is learning the art of acceptance, but then also we have to dispute our conscious thoughts, which are, what do you mean it's awful? There are a lot more awful things in the world, right? Things are inconvenient, but problem solving probably could solve it. These are kind of the conscious disputing, right? Hassles are unavoidable, that kind of dispute also. So we think to ourselves, listen, things happen, hassles are unavoidable. Nothing always works 100%, even though we like it to, and we just have to deal with it and weather it and sort of work it out. And some of the logical disputing is, I just need to shift my mindset to solution focus, take one step at a time, and I'll get through it. Part of the logical disputing is, can I picture 6 weeks from now, how I'm going to look back at this? That's a very, very good technique, by the way, always to think about, what am I going to think about this in 6 weeks from now? You know what you're going to think about. You're going to look back and tell a story and have a nice story to tell your grandchildren or whatever, and it's just a big joke, right? Right now it's hard, but you're going to look back at it and it's going to be funny. But all of this becomes much more possible and easier and deeper and more sustainable and more generalized to other situations if we go down a level and we dispute it on a deeper level, right? And these kind of things are an opportunity to dispute it on a deeper level. And we come to things like disputing it that it's not true that it has no purpose, because everything has a purpose. And that's what real spiritual Jewish mindfulness is all about, that if something happens, every moment has a purpose. I might not know what the purpose is, but if this happened to be, there's a purpose. I don't know what the purpose is. Maybe the purpose is that actually it was God protecting me, that I shouldn't go into work today, because maybe going to work today would have turned out bad. Or something is supposed to happen. Or maybe the purpose is for me to stay calm, as we always say. Maybe the purpose is for me to become a better purpose. Maybe a person, that is the purpose. But I do know that there's a purpose. Number one, deeper belief. Second deeper belief dispute is that it's not true, that it's not for me, because I can choose my emotional response. I can control myself. Moach shalit ala lev, that concept of the head controlling the heart, that's a deeper belief system, that's the way God created us, and we're not animals, and we are people that have a choice, that we can make decisions, and we can be rational, and our head can in fact control what our heart is feeling. Guide it, channel it, transform it, and so on. Right? Gratitude, deeper belief system. Like, let me put things in perspective. I have lots of blessings. And as we said 2 weeks ago, I think that sometimes we don't know why things have to happen, but if something had to unsettle me, thank God it was this. Everyone's still healthy. We'll get through it. I'll get a new phone. I'll get a new wallet. I'll don't worry about the $300 that was in it. Okay, it's fine. It's painful, but if it was destined for something to happen, like someone said, like they say in Yiddish, "Lozana kapora." In other words, right? So okay, so let's be yotze with that, as they say in Yiddish, right? So all those things, these are deeper beliefs, and these are not beliefs that pertain to this particular situation, but they're very deep-rooted value beliefs that if we can use it as a mechanism to actually deal with the situation and dispute our feelings, and dispute our thoughts, and dispute our beliefs, the more we do it, the more we become used to it, and the more we can then use it automatically in other situations, right? So these are the deeper belief, dispute, value processes that we have to go through. And that comes through understanding and learning about it and revisiting this concept all the time. That everything is b'hashgacha pratit. And it's a hard concept sometimes to come to terms with, because sometimes it doesn't fit with our agenda. But nevertheless, that's the way it works, right? If we believe in a higher being, and fundamental to Jewish belief is that God controls Hakol bidei shamayim, as we've said many, many times, everything's in the hands of heaven. Then that's when we need to apply it. Now, as I said, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, obviously this is a whole nother strategy, and it becomes much more difficult to process this when we talk about something really, really painful, or really tragic, or really, really challenging. But what we're talking about for now is just the regular things that happen every day. That's where we need to practice that principle of Hakol b'dei Shemaim, everything is in the hands of heaven. When we lose our wallet, when someone cuts us off in traffic, all these things, that's when we need to really think this was meant to happen, and the only thing that's not in the hands of heaven is my response, my choice. that God leaves to us. That's the fundamental value of free choice. So that's the belief value dispute. Then we go to the positive action solutions. So, there's problem solving. Things like report missing wallet to police, contact the banks, cancel your credit cards, make a to-do list, just make a plan so you get a hold of it, you feel better and you feel more controlled, and you move forward. Inconvenience, but there's a pathway forward. Then we talked about also the concept of behavioral dispute. In other words, there's disputing by behavior, remember, because the heart follows the actions as well as the brain. So therefore we behavioral dispute by just doing something positive. But then there's something where we do an action even stronger than that, where we dispute the whole emotion. So I'm feeling really distressed, I'm feeling really anxious. You can do something sometimes that actually is a direct dispute type of behavior, which is something, in this case would be something like, I'm really feeling so angry and frustrated and irritable, the whole world's coming to an end, that's it. I'm calling up a friend I haven't seen for a while, we're going out for a coffee, we're going to enjoy ourselves. Right? Do something completely the opposite. Like that story of the class I told you about last week. You just jump yourself into it, jump yourself into positive, and dispute it that way. So that's the system. Talking about purpose, I'll just share with you a quick story which I read this morning. Two stories. One is I read this morning. It's a story that Rabbi Shimon Freundlich just wrote up. I'll just give you the context. Rabbi Shimon Freundlich is the Chabad rabbi in Beijing, in China. Okay, so you can imagine already. So what happened was like this. So there's a bunch of different rabbis all over China. When the whole coronavirus broke out, so everyone left. They went straight back to New York or Israel, wherever they come from. His family left as well right away, but he stayed. The reason that he stayed he's very, very protected. In fact, I just saw a televised speech of his. He's fully masked and the whole business, right? He stayed because there are Jews stranded in China that need help, and he just felt that someone needs to stay to help, which he did, which was pretty amazing. So, but now when his family left, they had travel plans. So he's trying now to change them because everyone's changing travel plans because they're still in New York and probably wants to delay it and so on. So he says on March the 4th, he left his home and went to the office of Air China in Beijing, not too far from his house, in order to change the return date of his family. Right? Now, apparently those offices are completely berserk at the moment. So most companies are refunding and rescheduling and so on. But he lands up in the Air China office, sitting on a chair for 3 hours, wearing his mask, using hand sanitizer the whole time. I guess you can get hand sanitizer in China because you can't get it here. So maybe in China they've overproduced them or something, right? Anyway, by the time he got to the desk, the woman behind the desk was in tears. Not from him, she just completely had it, because the whole 3 hours she'd been running back and forth from a desk to the phone to speak with the manager and so on and so forth. Printing stuff out, apologizing. Anyway, she just burst out crying. She apologized to him, look, I'm really sorry I've kept you waiting. He assured her that it was fine. He was good. He didn't get frustrated. Truth is, he probably doesn't have much to do in China at the moment anyway, but it's not like there's not a lot of people coming into Chabad house at the moment. So anyway, he was very patient, and she said, no, you've been very patient. I'm fine. Right? And then he says he left the office and actually really felt sorry for this woman. And she was just trying to do a job, and people were harassing. Obviously, people get frustrated and things like that. So he decided that he's going to bring her back a present. So in the afternoon, the next day I think, he took a this is a good present now in China, look at this. He took 50 frontline hospital grade surgical masks, a box of 100 surgical gloves, and 5 small pocket sized sanitizers. And he went to Air China to give it to her, right? Listen, you got to laugh a little bit, you can't. In appreciation for the hard work and her patience the day before. When he arrives, he says, I was told by the gentleman behind the desk that their staff are only working every other day due to the current short number of flights operating. Okay, doesn't matter. So he says, I'll just read it. He says, I explained to him why I'd come, what I brought for her, and asked him to please leave it at her desk for the next day. When I had finished, the only other person in the office turned around and said to me in a thick Scottish accent, that's the nicest thing I've ever witnessed. Someone do? And she said, are you a rabbi? This guy's got a huge beard, you have to understand. An English guy's got he's wearing his hat, he's got a bunch, right? So he said, yeah, my name is Shimon Freundlich, I'm the rabbi of the Jewish community of Beijing. And then he says to the guy, he says, I see from your passport, you're British. Where exactly in England are you from? The guy says, Glasgow. So the rabbi says, oh, my father was born in Glasgow, but I'm from London. So she smiles. She says, I've always heard that the Jewish people are nice people. But I've never actually had the opportunity to interact with one. You have inspired me to do something selfless, to do acts of kindness like you just did. Right? We concluded the conversation by her telling me that she works in the immigration department, and if I ever need any help, I should contact her, give me a number, etc., etc. I'm only telling the story because, often when something goes wrong in a day, the belief that there's a purpose is very strong. It's really fundamental. That's what I'm trying to emphasize. This concept, and it makes it's hard concept sometimes to come to terms with, but it's very liberating just to understand. I don't know what the purpose is, but there's a purpose. Now, sometimes we don't know what the purpose is, and sometimes we never discover what the purpose is, other than us staying calm and just becoming a better person. But sometimes we